Hi, I'm Katerina, and welcome to another episode of Airbnb Horror Stories. Now, I want to be clear, it's not always horror. There's lots of nice people, and the difficulties arise only once in a while. This week, I was looking forward to a peaceful week. I actually did have one. I had lovely people staying downstairs. It was very super uneventful. But then I had, in one of the rooms, I had somebody come and stay with us um, from an African country, and she was very, very, very much pregnant. Now, I didn't question it at all in the beginning because, well, pregnancy is your own business, and it's your own thing. um, but this lovely lady was very, very quiet. In fact, she was so quiet that she stayed in her room for 4 days without exiting it. And I came in to give her a table to eat, and she had a lot of like these rice balls. And so obviously she had enough sustenance for at least, 4 days. Um, and at that point, I started to question, like, well, what is she doing here? Is she going to give birth in my house? What's happening? So I started researching, and I researched a lot of birth tourism, because suddenly I realized what it was that in Canada, a lot of people, they come just to give birth. Now, I'm aware of that, having lived in Taiwan, that Taiwanese, they come to places like Canada to give birth, to gain citizenship for their children. And ultimately, the reason they do that is because then they can get a high school education, and or cheaper university education, or the children can go and have greater choices when they get older. All perfectly legit reasons. What I did discover also is that when you land, when you are part of a birth tourism enterprise, you're coming to the country to give birth in Canada, you're supposed to declare at the border or at the airport the reason for your entry, because obviously if you don't have the funds to pay for your own hospital care, then it is Canada that flips the bill. So that part of it is illegal and it's fraud. And of course, I had to go and investigate all of this, not because it's my business, but because I wasn't told that the person was pregnant. And then I was concerned about her safety and what is my responsibility, and would I have to be calling the hospital? Does she have a doctor? Was she going to give birth in my house? I had no idea. I read so many articles, and I even read the law, and I really investigated, and I asked many questions. What I did discover was that if a medical condition and or let's say imminent birth is not declared to the host, I have the right to turn them away. I didn't turn her away. Um, Partially because I didn't know what I was dealing with, and partially because, well, I did feel bad, but also because she didn't come out of her room, so I had no idea what I was dealing with. Eventually, after about 8 days, I saw her and I did talk to her, and I explained to her that she needs to go and tell people that she's about to give birth, so that that family is aware of the situation. The reason I think it's important to say these things is because when you're in the first stages of labor, you don't go to the hospital. You're at home, and you labor at home for maybe 12, maybe 24 hours. You're at home, and the people who are staying there are going to hear that and are going to be participating in that somehow, even if the person's in their own room, because they're going to be concerned, and it's going to also disrupt their sleep. So it's very important to declare that and to let the people be aware and accept those conditions so that they can be best helped. The stay was rather uneventful. It just put me in a very weird position where I had to draw my own lines and be aware of what I was comfortable with and not comfortable with, and what kind of information I needed for people to stay. So, um, so I wish the person well, and I hope that they have a lovely, speedy birth and it's not too traumatic and that everything goes well. But I also hope that if you are traveling and staying with a family or or in an Airbnb or any kind of homestay, that you are telling people of your medical conditions, because those people become liable for you, and if you're in their home, they need to know. Also, if there's an emergency, then they can call your doctor, because life is unpredictable, people. You can't just walk into someone's home pregnant and then just assume that it's okay, like that they're going to be okay with it. So yeah, I had a very, very quiet pregnant lady who I felt was hiding all week, afraid that she was somehow going to be discovered, when the discovery was there in a giant ball that was sticking out of her stomach. It was obvious that she was pregnant. And I had to go and do a lot of research. So it wasn't horrible. She was lovely. She left the room super clean. I just wish that guests would communicate more and tell you things like that. Alternatively, I've had people stay with oxygen tanks and they tell you that ahead because they know that it's a hazard, and they ask you, and then you're like, sure, no problem. There's no live sparking fires in the house except for the stove, right? So if you are traveling, then make sure you tell your host, because otherwise it's a very interesting surprise that the host is then launched into research mode and has to figure out what on earth they're going to do and how they're going to proceed. So it's more of an informational story rather than a horror story. It would have been, of course, a horror story if she did give birth here. Thankfully, she is now gone to someone else, and I seriously hope that she has told them that she is pregnant and that she is here for the purpose of giving birth. So, yes, traveling while pregnant can be tricky, especially if you want to give birth. Yeah, bye.